Melody, mi amiga, my fellow Boricua, welcome to the show. So excited to have you here.
I'm so happy and excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, the universe actually brought us together through mutual friends, and I've discovered all of the amazing work that you have done in your career and now also as a freelance marketing specialist. You are very passionate about helping, especially like entrepreneurs of color, kind of level their game up when it comes to marketing. And I think one of the things that I'm really excited to dive in with you today is why marketing matters. Because I think a lot of people of color who own businesses still don't understand the importance of spending on marketing. They don't understand the importance of the digital presence of your business. So, one example for me is like whenever I go to Puerto Rico, it's so hard to like find a restaurant or just a business that has an actual website. People are very basic about their shit. It's like you got a Facebook page, you got an Instagram, but I'm like, no, y'all. We need to be like looking professional out here in these digital streets. It is 2024. And so I'm so excited to dive into why we need to be investing in marketing as entrepreneurs, especially as entrepreneurs of color. But before we dive into all that juicy stuff, I'd love for you to give us an intro. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. No, really excited to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Melody Estrada. I am originally from California, from Silicon Valley, but I currently am in Miami, Florida. Moved out here like everyone else 3 years ago. But my background really comes from tech, marketing. I've worked in nonprofits, and I've also worked in community organizations for the city as well. So a lot of background. It kind of looks like it's all over the place. It's nonprofit and for-profit, but that's where a lot of my background comes from. In terms of ethnicity, my mom is from Ponce, Puerto Rico, and my dad is from Matanzas, Cuba. So I definitely have that Caribbean blood. I have 6 brothers, 1 sister. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Now, I love your background because when I think about the spaces that you found yourself in, it's very much like not spaces that we see ourselves in. I know you're familiar with the folks at Stanford and Berkeley and all these like high end collegiate institutions that like I as a first gen Latina was like, bitch, what? We ain't applying to these schools. We don't even fucking belong in these environments. And so you having worked in tech and being around like all these people who literally do not look like us, what has that experience been like for you as a Latina?
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't know the Latinos could apply to Stanford.
Facts.
So when I imagine my surprise when I went to work at Stanford, when I started at the Latino Business Action Network, and I was like, wait, you went to school here? Like we can go to school here? It was insane. So it was one of those things that I went to public school. The degree and graduating wasn't even a question. I couldn't stay at my mom's and my parents' house if I didn't get it. So it was kind of like one of those things that's like, you have to be a 4.0 student. You have to get good grades to survive in this house. So I think the biggest thing that actually kept me away from going to those schools was I didn't have the money. We didn't have the money. It was like, are you kidding me? Like my parents already struggle with the mortgage and the day to day. How are we going to afford 100, 200K in education? So I had to quickly humble myself and just settle. I hate to say settle, but I had to not really reach for the stars as we were told over and over again, growing up, just reach for the stars.
Yeah, it's the stars are in different budgets apparently. We got to figure out what budget do we have here, and it's usually FAFSA that lets you know, oh shit, we can't afford nothing. This is great.
Right. Yeah, there's a ceiling.
Yeah, facts. So you find yourself working at Stanford doing what? And what did you actually study as your background in college?
Yeah, so I went to San Jose State University, which is in the heart of downtown San Jose. Actually, I never say this, but I graduated in honors in marketing with a minor in recreation because I was working for the city of Mountain View in the recreation department.
For those who don't know, like Mountain View is like where the Google and Facebook and all these fucking people are founded. So just, no big deal.
Exactly. No, so I graduated from San Jose State from there. My first job out of college was actually working at Apple. I worked for the App Store marketing team. In everyone's eyes, right, I had made it, right? Got my degree, got into the tech job. It was a great experience. It really was. I was managing outbound marketing materials for developers, right? And then it was from that job that I was contacted by a recruiter for the Latino Business Action Network, which is a nonprofit that collaborates with Stanford, GSB. And back then it was a 6-week scaling program for Latino entrepreneurs across the US, right? Right now they have multiple programs now. That's where that came from. It came from working at Apple. And then that's how that door kind of opened up with LBAN and Stanford.
What's been the biggest difference that you've seen working with people who have that entrepreneurial spirit in a for-profit company like Apple versus like nonprofits, where you're usually helping folks who don't necessarily have the same access to resources?
Yeah, marketing is like the last priority. Or it's simply, you don't know what you don't know, and you've never had to think about it because everything has always been bootstrapped. So it's kind of like, oh, well, this is how we've always been doing it. And so you kind of just settle versus, right, working for a tech company. Are you kidding me? Like,
The resources are unlimited.
exactly. Working for, there was a part of it before the Apple Watch had come out, because I think that was in 2013, 2014, where the Apple Watch was just coming out. And I was working with the Marcom team, marketing communications team. So, they have whole subset marketing teams within the marketing umbrella. So going to the nonprofit, there were businesses that did not have, obviously don't have big, robust teams necessarily, but that just hadn't had an opportunity to prioritize marketing because they just didn't know how to.
Yeah, I think I've even experienced that in my own journey. Like marketing always just felt like very luxurious place to spend money in my business, right? It's like, I think as an engineer, like I've always understood the importance of processes and systems. So like I'm very comfortable investing in software that's going to help me like do something faster or proceduralizing something. But marketing just I didn't understand the value of it until I actually realized, well, most of why I'm fucking burnt out is because I'm just trying to do all of this and not use systems and not use processes which exist, right? So for me, one of the big areas that I spent kind of preparing for my transition from side hustler to full-time entrepreneur was like, I don't want to have to physically always be selling something. Like I want to automate this. I want to learn, how do we create email funnels and sales funnels and automations. And when I understood that A, it's not as complicated as you think, it's just big fancy words, and B, like how much time this shit saves you so that you can actually focus on the whole point of what you're doing, which is making fucking money. I am so comfortable now spending on marketing, but I think a lot of people, they see the initial investment that it takes to put these things in place and they're just like, oh my God, like what?
Yeah, I hear, and just to kind of add to that, like, be surprised at things I've heard in my consulting and my proposals. And I can just make that post myself. And it's like,
okay, sis, try doing that shit 3 times a day for the next 3 months and you're going to be fucking exhausted and over it.
it's one of those things. It's like, I do have to break down, this is what goes into this, you have to do research on a topic, and you have to look at your competitors, and you have to write up the copy in itself. It can be exhausting. It's like, do you know how hard it is to write captions across different platforms, like X amount of times a day, a month, over the year? And then also think about things to come, right? It's also a lot of pre-planning. I'm always putting together, trying to look at like the year as a whole for what's to come and what are things that we want to prioritize this year that align with our values, that assist with our storytelling, and that speak to our audience. And then also, we have to also keep in mind our clients. We have to also look out for what's to come that's relevant to their industries. So it's not just posting a pretty picture and writing a 2 to 3 sentence caption. It takes a lot of time. And then, I don't want to keep going on and on, but you get my point. It is a lot of work.
Yeah. And I think that feeds perfectly into this next question, which is like, let's just say you're a solopreneur. You're in the beginning phases of starting your business. And you're like, I literally cannot afford to hire somebody to help me with marketing. What can I do by myself that can maybe alleviate some of the load so that I'm not having to burn out marketing my business?
It's funny you say that, because that's actually been one of the hardest parts of my revenue model, is keeping it affordable for small businesses without burning myself out because of the cost. Sometimes it's a constant tug of war, but I think there are a lot of free platforms out there that can help you streamline. I mean, I think I was on a webinar last week and I can't remember exactly what they said, but they said something to the extent of, I use resources that are free and obviously like not so tedious until it's more of a cost to do it manually. Right? Until it starts to cost me to do it manually. Then I have to streamline it. So it's one of those things like we use Canva heavily. I know that Canva has recently changed a couple of their terms in terms like for payment structure. But you know, when Canva first came out, that was gold. Because I don't use Photoshop, but it was super imperative to kind of get myself going as I got started with my business. So just taking advantage of what's free, because there's a lot of free tools out there.
Absolutely. And like even these social media platforms have built in like scheduling functions where like that's something you used to have to pay for separately with a third party app. So like just even taking a day to, let's say, batch create content for the week, for the month, and scheduling that out, I think it's just, there's a lot of people who don't understand the value of segmenting their time. And if you think about how most of our brains work, focused work is good work, whereas scattered work where you're just trying to go from, you're in marketing mode, now you're in finance mode, now you're in admin mode, like as a solopreneur, that is going to deplete you, that is going to fucking exhaust you. And so I implore you, like if you are a single person business, you need to be strategic about how you spend that time, you know, because at the end of the day, if you're not doing anything efficiently, you're wasting a whole lot of your time and energy. And marketing needs to be one of those things where there's a dedicated time on your schedule, because without telling people about your business, you're literally not going to make money. Like that is one of three components that you need to run a business. You need the thing you're selling, how you're going to get paid for the thing you're selling, and how you're going to tell people. Like everything else, that shit can be scaled and expanded and made all fancy and shit, but you need three things to run a business and make money. The thing, how you're going to get paid, and how you're going to tell people. So marketing needs to be like top fucking priority.
Agreed. Agreed. You know, you were talking about, we were just, you know, on the topic of like resources, right? And the time blocking is super important, of course. Google Suite is,
I live and die by my Google Calendar, honey.
yeah, like and even within all the resources that they provide in the suite of applications that Google provides, right? Google Folders and Google Drive is just huge for us in terms of where we house a lot of our content as well. If you can't afford Dropbox, or you can't afford, you know, other third parties, just wanted to make sure I added that 2 cents. But absolutely, time blocking is huge, you know, especially because, you know, you were talking about being a freelancer going full time. And it was one of those things where I had to be like, okay, if I'm going to go and I'm going to run this business, I need to make sure I'm either blocking out evenings, I'm blocking out weekends, or I'm figuring out what block of the day that I'm sending emails or getting back to my team so that things keep moving along. Cause a big other issue too is becoming a time bottleneck. So
yes, you do not want to be the bottleneck in your business because you just don't have any structure in place. God forbid. Then you ain't got nobody to blame but yourself why shit's not happening.
exactly.
All right. So I know that you've also worked with businesses based in Puerto Rico. And like I mentioned earlier in our discussion, there's a lot of digital illiteracy that I'm noticing with people of color entrepreneurs where they still do not understand the importance of your digital presence and why that is an area to focus on investing in. What's your take on first why and what people can do to become more digitally proficient with marketing?
I think because it just goes back to don't know how to use it. I think that's like the main thing. Don't know how to use it. And the reason they don't have time is probably because they're working so much, right? People have 2-3 jobs in Puerto Rico. I mean, I think even here in Miami, and they just don't have the time to learn the tools to help them become more efficient. That's the paradox. So it's like one of those things that's like, well, your Google page says you're permanently closed. Oh, I didn't even know that. I don't know how to remove that. Or like it needs to be verified, or your hours aren't showing, or you have no images, or your images aren't relevant, or your description, you know, you could upload your description. You need more Google reviews. It's one of those things that that's the biggest example I can give at the moment because that I use Google maps so often in Puerto Rico for finding businesses. But, I have found that a lot of businesses do also use Facebook or use Instagram. And there's a lot of people in Puerto Rico that use Facebook specifically for their businesses. Whereas when people come from the States, I'll speak for myself and maybe younger generations, they don't use Facebook no more. So then now you're a dying cow. And it's one of those things that's, you got to learn how to use the tool, but then you also got to know what's coming. You can't remain the blockbuster. So I think to answer your question, just don't know how to use the tools. And then I forgot the second question. How?
Well, let's address that first, because, it's hilarious that that's a reason for people when they're literally like whole ass how-to pages on all of these different social media platforms. There are free trainings. There's so much information out there, but I don't think it comes in, I don't know this to be true, but I've never seen any of this stuff in a language other than English. Like, I don't know if you can do Google trainings in Spanish.
That's a good question. I should probably look into that.
We're going to have to look into that because, the same reason why financial literacy is so segmented and it's so hard for folks who speak different languages to learn how to be financially literate. A lot of that has to do with the fact that this shit's not even in multiple languages. If you go to like a Bank of America website or something to go and apply for like a loan, you'd be lucky if it comes in anything other than English. And so I can imagine that part of the reason why we're seeing this lack of proficiency is because tech companies have also not realized that, hi, there's a world out here that doesn't speak English. There's a whole world of human beings who are running businesses that need your information in their native language in order for them to become proficient.
Agreed. And that's actually something that I have been considering or looking into for myself is, making sure that I am translating or figuring out like, how do we translate my own services to Spanish as well? I am looking at also doing marketing in Spanish to reach a whole other demographic as well. Especially if I'm working with a lot of Latino entrepreneurs, I need to be able to speak. I should have been doing that before, but now it's one of those things that I'm really considering, like, how do we translate this into Spanish as well so that we can, and also, we also need to be up to date with a lot of these updates so that we can be the experts in the space and be able to communicate that to them.
Yeah. And I think you're going to find, obviously, just based on someone's cultural background, that their hangups and their pain points and their objections might be different. And so just being able to address those based on, the type of business, how much experience the owner has, all these things, cultural background, all that is important. Now, I would love to know from you, as kind of a follow-up to the question, why is it a mistake for folks to just be on social media versus having like their own dedicated website? What are your thoughts on that?
For me, a website is a business's LinkedIn. For me as well, it's also like the way we look at it is it's about credibility. Yeah, I want to know if you actually know what you're talking about. I want to see testimonials. I want to see, do you have pictures of your work? What are you about? What's your story? I think that's the biggest thing for my studio is really try to tell my clients that what's the story behind why you got started? I think that's why people care. I think that's why people go into business with other people. It's not because of your product. It's because they believe in you. They believe in your story. They believe in your why. And they're maybe even inspired by it. We hear all the case studies that go out about, Apple and all these other companies. They're not selling just a computer. They're selling a whole experience, a feeling. And so I think that the website is just like everything else, right? Digitally, it all speaks to one another. And you can't just expect to have social media be the foundation of your business. Everything needs to work together to make sure that, it legitimizes you. I look at all platforms, first of all. I look at Google, I look at Yelp. I sometimes even go to the BBB to see if you're on there. I look at website, all social platforms. I look at, Medium. I look at if you have a blogs. I look at everything to kind of get that consolidated report on, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is the audit I'm seeing. And I think it's absolutely imperative to have a website because it is the credibility to your business. It's the LinkedIn to your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely take businesses way more seriously when they have an established website. And I think even, as a business owner, just relying on social media and how fickle the algorithms can be, and your ability to literally get demonetized, deactivated, hacked. Like, if all of your eggs are in one basket, marketing wise, you're one incident away from just having zero contact with potential clients. And that shit can be devastating. And I've seen it.
I totally agree. We have an intake form on our website. That same intake form is on our social channels, our social platforms. I mean, everything just speaks to one another, right? And that's how what SEO is too, right? SEO is speaking to it, the algorithm, right? Is speaking to each other. And the more that Google validates that, okay, this is all like matching, the more you'll come up in rankings. And so it's one of those things that's like also, you want to make sure that you're doing good for your business as well. Everything needs to look coherent, and that's also part of branding. You need to make sure it's saying the same thing across all the platforms. So,
all right. So let's say, we're talking to the entrepreneurs who know that marketing is an area that they need to invest in, but the budget is limited. So maybe, like, what's the best place to prioritize if you can't necessarily have a whole revamp right away?
I would say the lowest hanging fruit would be to make sure your messaging and any collateral that you do create is clean. That's all free to create. You can create that on Adobe, you can create that on Canva. They have obviously some free platforms to do things on. Create your content and your messaging and just make sure it all matches.
So, like, you're talking about like a brand kit, or just like,
Yeah, I would say just get on the same page with your team, or if you're just running your business by yourself, and make sure you're very clear on why you're doing what you're doing. It's kind of like the work that we do with businesses, right? Is we look under the hood of their business and just make sure that their vision makes sense, their tagline makes sense, make sure that your messaging just makes sense. That's on nobody else but the business owner. And then just make sure that if there's any budget, $50, $100, if you're buying business cards, make sure that your business cards are clean, right? If you're buying whatever it is, and then just create your social platforms. That's free. Create your social platforms, find out where your audience is, and then build those platforms. If they're on Instagram, make an Instagram account and just make sure that everything digitally is clean. Because for the most part, it's free to create an Instagram account. It's free to create a Facebook account or, a TikTok. It's free to create these accounts. But you just need to make sure that you are on the right platform.
yeah, I love that advice. And I remember the first time that I hired someone to do a marketing funnel for me, the first exercise that we did, because she was going to be writing copy on the behalf of the brand, is like, you need to know, like, what is your brand voice? Who are you speaking to? What is the way that you communicate messaging? Like, because if you're going to hire somebody to start writing copy and content for you and they don't sound anything fucking like any of what you used to create, people are going to be very confused. Okay. They're going to be like, who the hell is this? Where is this coming from? And I think that's also the danger of like relying too much on these new tools like ChatGPT and other forms of AI to just like take over marketing for you. It's not a copy paste situation, y'all. Those tools are useful for like brainstorming, for outlining. But at the end of the day, if your shit doesn't sound like you, people are going to pick up on that very quickly.
That's a very good point, because ironically, I know we're a marketing studio, but I did hire someone went through my rebrand back in 2021, I believe it was, where I needed to step out of being in the trenches of my business and have someone else kind of dictate to me and be like, hey, let's start from scratch again. What voice do you want? What's the tone? How playful do you want to be versus how serious do you want to be, right? What type of content do you want to create? What's the look and feel, right? And so it was one of those things I had to work with a designer on really identifying that. That's a really big and huge, and I would say probably one of the best investments you can make for your business is really establishing that foundation with a brand kit. I think that's one of the first things for sure we ask for when we're working with a client is send over your brand kit when you get a moment so that we can take a look and review it. And then, obviously we can create content for you. But I would say that is probably a good start.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good exercise to do like your founder story, which I think a lot of people, even calling themselves a founder, is like, But who am I to be out here like bragging about my accomplishments and like why I started this business? I know for me that was a very weird exercise because when I was starting the podcast, I'm like, what qualifications do I have to be doing this? You know, it's like I didn't go to school for finance. I'm self-taught, and we start to like dim our light. And I think that exercise of like writing your founder story can help you really start to own the identity that is then going to be like the thing that weaves through your business and your marketing and your brand.
Absolutely. I think I totally head on in 2020 when COVID was happening and we had just shut down and we were all staying home. I felt so helpless because I was in person so much with so many businesses. But the only thing I felt like I could do was, okay, well, let's just amplify these stories. And that's what I did. All I did was I created interviews. I typed it up. I mean, I don't remember how the heck I just did it, but I just did it. And I had 8 stories. I was posting a story each week, and I'm not a writer, mind you. And with the help of, I had a friend, Jessica, help me with it. We edited the stories and we posted it every week. And after that, it wasn't even my intention, but I guess that's obviously like where it led. People started reaching out to me to write their story, to talk about their business story and how, they had plummeted 98% in sales, but then, they were revamping their business model. And, it was just amazing stories that were coming out of these interviews. And from there, I don't remember who I spoke to, a really good friend. And she said, Melody, you're amplifying entrepreneurs. And that's where I took that tagline. That's what I share out with Me&Co now. Or that's our tagline with Me&Co. And so, anywho, it's just kind of funny how things happen and things move. You gotta get started.
You got to get out of your own way. And marketing is one of those things that's going to evolve as platforms come and go, as trends come and go, as your business offerings come and go. I think for me, once I realized that like there are no rules and you can just kind of show up the way that you want, I think that's when it became less intimidating, because I think there's a lot of perception, like what actual marketing content should look like. And at the end of the day, it should be shit that you enjoy creating. It should not feel strenuous. It should not feel unaligned. It should not feel like you're somebody that you're not, or you're doing something that you don't want to do. Because I think the whole reason why we get into entrepreneurship is to have the freedom to create whatever it is that we want to. And I think your marketing should have the same sort of energy. No rules.
I have to say, your newsletters are amazing.
Thank you.
Like, it sounds just like you.
That's because I actually do write my newsletters, which might surprise some people because I had like offloaded that for a while, but I always felt like I want to talk to my people. Like there's other things in my business that I don't mind outsourcing. I don't do like the marketing for the podcast or like social media content that's related to the podcast and things like that. But I always want people to feel like they're getting sort of insider information when they join my newsletter. And so that's why, even somebody at my level, it's like, oh, you write your own newsletters? Yeah. Cause I'm like, I want it to sound like me. And nobody really knows like what's going on day to day unless it's me, or if I have like an assistant that I'm dictating all that shit to. So I think there's certain aspects of your business marketing that I think, especially if you're like a forward facing brand where like you are the brand, I think there's going to have to be elements where you still stay involved, and that's okay.
I enjoy it.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, I know there's this whole new movement around faceless marketing, and
can we talk about that? Because I did a piece for CNET, and I am convinced that a lot of these like Facebook marketing courses and the MMR, the master resale right shit, is just like today's version of an MLM. Because I think a lot of people are getting sold this like get rich quick scheme that, oh, buy this course and you're going to make $1 million. But these courses are not actually teaching you digital marketing in the way that like someone like Melody who does this for a living can do. They're just teaching you how to resell the course to somebody else and fucking bamboozle them. And for me, that's straight up scam. So what's your take on this?
It's funny you ask me because I keep seeing this pop up on my Instagram and I just swipe. Just like
swipe left, goodbye.
I don't even entertain it because I'm just like, it's pretty, it's aesthetically pleasing, and it sounds and it looks good, but
it's bullshit.
Yes. I can't get behind it because I'm sitting here and everyone thinks AI is going to take over the world, and everyone thinks that everyone has all these ideas around, how our jobs are being taken away. And I'm just like, no, the person who knows how to use AI may take over your job. But I firmly believe that the human aspect of our work will never go away. Like, we're always going to want to speak to a human when we call the bank, or we're always going to want to speak to, a human when we're calling our internet service, right? It's one of those things. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I hit 0 just to get out of the automated machine. So, it's like, to your point, it's like, I just laugh at things like that sometimes because I feel bad that there is a lot of scam out there. But at the end of the day, right, if you're looking to get rich quick and make, I don't know how much a month out of nothing, then you're probably not the client I want to work with. So,
and I think for me, I've never walked up to a stranger on the internet and been like, hey, take my money. So for me, like, that shit just doesn't make sense. Like, when you exchange money with a business, it's because you have established a relationship, because you know the story behind the founder, because you're inspired by the vision, the mission statement, you're aligned with the company values. They have a relationship with you. Like, money is a relationship, the exchange of money. And so for me, I'm just like, well, how do we create that relationship when there's nobody behind the business? So that's why for me, the whole faceless marketing shit, it's like, it's a great scam tactic to like make people who are introverted and like, oh, I don't want to show up for my business, or I'm afraid to be on camera. Like, it's good to prey on those people, but it's not based in any real way. Like, when you think about the psychology of marketing, we don't just give random fucking strangers money. That's not how this works.
And I want to make sure I establish a distinction though. Like, there is faceless marketing, but there's also, I can understand if a client doesn't want to be face forward, but is still willing to share their story. Like, I'm okay. You don't want to take a photo shoot. You don't want to put your picture up. That's fine. But we have to share your story, and we have to share why you got started with the business, because I think that's what really moved me with LBAN. Was we did video challenge towards the end of the scaling program, and we asked every business to make a 2-minute video or 1-minute video on the impact of the program and why they had gotten started with their business. And some people didn't even put their face in those videos, but they did share their story. And that's what moves people to do business with others, is if they feel convicted and they really align with your values and they trust you. I think that's the biggest thing.
Fantastic. All right. So you are now running your own agency, which is incredible. You've taken all of these skills that you've picked up in the world of tech and nonprofit, working with entrepreneurs, and now people can work directly with you to create these marketing plans. Tell me how folks can first find you and what kind of services that you offer.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find us at weareme.co. That's exactly how it sounds, weareme.co. That is also the same handle for Instagram. We are also on LinkedIn, and we are also on TikTok. We're not very active on TikTok, but we are on TikTok. Okay. That's a lot of work. Gosh, that's a lot of work. So the cool thing about our studio, and I went back and forth on this a lot, and I'm very, very mindful of the words I use because of the connotation with agency, for me at least, didn't resonate. It sounded too big. It didn't sound like a relationship to me. And I know that working with former agencies, I know there was like 5 people that are assigned to a client, and that's just overwhelming. So I said, let's be a studio, because for me, a studio means that you roll up your sleeves, you sit down, and you do the work with the entrepreneur. And so we tailor our packages to each client we have. So it's always different. We talk about the generic services that we offer, but then we create these really cool packages for them that work for their budget, but also make sense for their business. And I think that's been one of our biggest differentiators. I'll be honest as well. Like, a lot of our business comes from referrals. So we haven't had to do much marketing, but
I mean, that is a way to market, the word of mouth is the original way.
It's huge. It's huge. So we get a range of businesses that we work with, but everything from brand strategy to marketing management, whether that's managing whatever that is for you, right? Whatever support you need, whether it's on Nextdoor or Yelp or your social platforms, or you need help managing your website, or everything from web design, right? If you need help creating a basic web, or you need something a little bit more unique, we talk through all of that. And then anything else in the side of the world of marketing, right? So if you need flyers, if you need any print materials, that also is included. But again, it's really niche packages, and it's really just tailored to our clients and what their needs are. But it encompasses so much. Our goal this year, though, was to focus on social media management, web design, and SEO and copywriting. So that's a lot of what we focused on this year, because that's what we heard was the biggest need.
Yeah, I can absolutely attest to like how impactful focusing on things like SEO have been for my businesses. And it's one of those things that I think a lot of people don't understand the value of it until they see it implemented, and they're just like, what do you mean Google will send people to my business without me having to dance on TikTok? This is incredible, right? And so just like once you realize that there are actual free strategies out there, it's just understanding the science behind how they work, or having a support team like yourself to put those strategies in place. It could change the game for you, and you could then start to think about really scaling the business to a point where you can hire more help. Because that's the point. I think some people are happy being like solopreneurs, but I think at some point there's always going to be kind of a cap that you can reach income wise, capacity wise. And so, knowing that you can scale your business, make more money, provide jobs, keep doing what you love, but on a grander scale, helping people, serving clients, like that's the whole point of marketing. Like once you start making more dollars, you can start making more impact. And so why would you not want to invest in that? All right. So Melody, we're going to have all of your contact information in the episode description so that folks can find out more about you, find out how they can work with you. And I just want to close this out with a little message to the entrepreneurs out there who are struggling with getting visibility in your business, who are struggling with marketing. I think less is more. I have found that when it's strategic, when it's targeted, when it's not you feeling like you got to show up on all the platforms and do all the things, that's when you actually start making progress. And so can you close us out with your best tips for doing the initial part of planning for marketing, which is, I think, finding out who the hell you're talking to? How do we do this? How do we find out who the hell actually cares about what we're doing?
Talk to them.
Oh, is it really that simple? Wow. Okay, we have to get back to communication.
Back to comms. I would have to say that is the main thing. I'm huge on design thinking. I'm huge on reiterating, shifting, constantly changing whatever product it is that you have, because times change and you have to grow with the customer. You have to grow with the times. And so it's just really making sure that you're not losing that communication with your customer, asking them every so often, hey, how were the last 6 months? Hey, whatever it is that your business or product is, and just taking the time to get that feedback and listen and iterate.
That's a great way to close this out. Pay attention to your people, ask them questions. There are lots of free tools, whether you're using an Instagram poll or you are sending a Q&A on your newsletter. Like, talk to your people. That's how you're going to know what products they want. That's how you're going to know what services they want. That's how you're going to know what pain points they're experiencing so that you can then market to them. It really does just come back to the basics of marketing, which is effective communication. Let's start there.
Active listening.
Active listening. I love that. Which, if you grew up in a Latino household, you probably were not exposed to. So this is a whole new skill set, okay? Because ain't nobody fucking listening in my house.
Exactly.
Melody, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to folks finding out more about the work that Me&Co does and how you can level up your business marketing this year and going forward.
Thank you so much for having me, Janice. So happy to be here.